So first of all, we find ourselves in a very special month, the month of Kislev. This is the month of many miracles happen to the Jewish people, starting from backwards from Hanukkah, then it's Yutes Kislev, and the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe, came out of jail, and then there was the Middle Rebbe. This Shabbos we celebrate is Yortzeit. The second Lubavitcher Rebbe was born and passed away on the same day. And on the next day, Yud Kislev is the day he went out of jail. So I won't send a boy from Sydney to go and study in the yeshiva in Kfar Chabad. And after 6 months, his father didn't want to talk to him. He was upset. After 6 months, his father calls him up. He says, Moshe, I want to talk to you. He says, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you now because I'm going to a Verbringen. He says, what's a Verbringen? He explained to him, what's the occasion? He says, it's Yud Beis Tammuz, the 12th day of Tammuz. That's the day the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe came out of jail. Okay, his father hangs up. He waits another 6 months. And he calls him up again. He says, oh, father, I can't talk to you. I'm going to Verbringen. He says, what's happened now? He says, it's the 10th day of Kislev, and it's the second Lubavitcher Rebbe came out of jail. He says, okay, I'll call you next week. He calls him next week. He says, oh, you called me in such a bad time. I'm going to Verbringen. What's the occasion now? Yutes Kislev, the 19th day of Kislev. That's the day when the Alter Rabbi came out of jail. He says, son, I think you're mixing with the wrong crowd.
all the time in Kislev.
That's a good one.
So it's a combination of two words. If you split the word Kislev, kis in Hebrew means pocket, and lev means heart. So I find that many people have a pocket, they have money in the pocket, but they don't have a heart to give it. Some people have a very good heart, but they don't have the pocket. So Kislev is a combination of, you have the kis and the lev together. Kislev. So I want to, we have to live with the Parshat, and there's so much there, so I just want to give a brief overall, and then we're going to focus on one concept. So this Parshat is VAYEITZEI. VAYEITZEI YAAKOV. We're talking about YAAKOV. If you think you have problems, YAAKOV had problems not only from when he was born, he had problems from before he was born even. In his mother's womb, he already had problems. And his life, the first 130 years of his life, was from one problem to another. The last 17 years was the best years of his life. So he has to leave because his brother wants to kill him. And so the Torah tells us that he stopped over on the Mount Moriah where the Beis Hamikdash was built, and then he laid down there. Hashem revealed himself to him in his dream, and he said that, don't be afraid, I'll be with you wherever you go. He saw angels coming up and down to protect him. And then he started, when he woke up, he thanked Hashem, and he said, if I come back in one piece, I know where I'm going now, to my uncle Lavan. He doesn't have a good reputation. I'm going to go in from one problem, from Esav, my brother, to my uncle. The whole mishpucha is they're corrupted there, and it's big problems. But if I come back here in this place, I'll take the stone and I'll make it a big celebration. And he goes to Lavan, and he finds that on the way he gets robbed. So he has no money in his pocket. Then he comes to Lavan, and he says to Lavan, I want to work for you 7 years to marry your daughter Rochel. Then he fools him, he gives him Leah instead. And then he works another 7 years, and then he gets Rochel. And then he has to leave, and he has to run away, and Lavan fools him. He goes from one problem to another problem. So we don't have problems. But one thing to focus is that Rochel, or Rachel as we call her, she didn't have children. And she starts saying to Yaakov, why? I want children. So Yaakov says to her, am I God? That I can give you a child? It's like this woman came to the Rabbi and she asked for a bracha to have children. 1 year goes by, 2 years, finally after 10 years, she gives birth. And a neighbor heard about it. she went to the Rabbi by doubles, and she asked the Rabbi, I also want a blessing for children. But so the Rabbi gave her a blessing. She said, I don't want to wait 9 years like my neighbor. I want it now. The Rabbi said, it takes at least 9 months, so I can give it you right now here. So Yaakov has a very, I wouldn't say angry, but a very serious conversation with Rachel. Why? I'm not God. I'm not stopping you from having children. And as a matter of fact, our four mothers, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, were all akarot. Born, the woman cannot have a child. What do you say?
Infertile or barren?
Barren. Couldn't have a child. Now, Sarah comes from a family. She was born very easily, so she couldn't say there was any genetics there, right? The minute she marries Avraham, she can't have children. And she has to go to prayers and an whole story. Next generation comes to Yitzchak, he marries Rebecca, also not 20 years, doesn't have children. And they have to pray. In last week's Parshat, it says they both got together and they prayed to Hashem, and finally she gave birth. Then Yaakov comes to Lavan, again, family. No family history problem. There's no genes that is not right. But you come to, he wants to marry Rachel, but he marries Leah. And Leah and Rachel were both twins, according to some of our sages. And they were both, barren? I'm going to learn some English here today. Are you a karot? הכרה, עין קוף רש אישה שלא יכולה...
אני יודע מה זה בעברית, אני לא יודע מה זה.
גם אני לא יודע.
Accretion.
And even Leah, who did have kids, it says in this Parshat, Hashem had to open up her womb because Hashem saw that she is disliked by Yaakov as much as Rachel, and Hashem had to open up the womb, make a special miracle for her to give birth. So the question is, why is it the first 2,000 years since creation, it doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that a woman was barren. Barren, yeah. Barren. So it doesn't say anywhere in the Torah. It doesn't look like it existed, such a thing. The first time it talks about barren is when Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, they are the ones that, as soon as they marry into the family, bang, they become barren. Why? Why is it? So, there's many explanations for it. There's the Duvner Maggid, this is a very famous Maggid, he lived 200 years ago. He wasn't a Chassid, but he had very good parables for everything. And they once asked him, how do you have such good parables to explain things? He says, I'll answer you with a parable. Imagine somebody's going to a shooting range and he sees all the targets are in the middle. And he wonders, how's it possible to get them all right? So the guy told him, what I do is I first throw the arrow and then I make the circles around it. In other words, for me, I first find a good story and then I find what Torah can I attach to the story. And that's the way I work. Anyway, so the Maggid of Duvna, he said, interesting explanation, that's not according to Hasidus, but he said that Hashem did not want, the Jewish people could not be born natural. There's no such a thing. In other words, when Avraham prayed to Hashem for a child, Hashem said, I'll give you a child. Avraham says, I already have one, Ishmael. So Hashem said, no, Ishmael is not the right one for you. And the basic explanation was because the first Jewish child born cannot be born natural. Because the existence of the Jewish people is not natural. The fact that so many nations have tried to destroy us, and they're all come and gone, and we are still here from the different parts of the world, then that is a miracle. So therefore, he says that Hashem did not want people to look at Yaakov and Yitzchak and say, they come from a family like Terach, from a bad family. So Hashem said, the daughters, the woman who came into the household of Abraham, Yitzchak and Yaakov, could not give birth naturally. And Hashem has to make a miracle to be able to they should give birth. So they will be called the grandchildren of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, that were generated in a miraculous way by the prayers of Abraham and Yitzchak. That's the way he explains it. But there's a Gemara that says that the reason why it is because Hashem loves the prayer of tzaddikim. In other words, Hashem wanted Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and their wives to pray. Now, pray is the wrong word because in Hebrew, tefillah is not prayer. Prayer means when you want something, you're asking for something, I need something, right? But that's not tefillah, that's bakasha. Tefillah is a total different word in Jewish idea. Tefillah comes from the word naftule elokim niftalti, connection. That tefillah is a time when I connect to Hashem. And it's not because I want to ask for something. It's not because I want to ask. And Hashem wants the tzaddikim to pray, to, I'll use the word davening, or I don't know where the word davening comes from. In order for them, Hashem loves to talk to them. He loves to be in the company. And therefore, it's not that they don't have something because really it's a question, if the person deserves it, then why doesn't he need to pray? If the person doesn't deserve it, what's prayer going to help? It's like somebody's, he has money in the bank, but he's not actually going to cash it in. Let me explain more. The idea is that every Rosh Hashanah, for example, let's talk about Parnasa, livelihood. We can all relate to it. It's decided how much money we are going to earn this year. And it says in Ayam Yom, you can do any trick under the book. You can try to cheat, you can try to work 9 days a week. You can work 12 hours, like my father, he had 3 jobs. And I asked him, why do you have 3 jobs? He said, because I could not find the 4th one. So basically, the idea is that Hashem wants the tzaddikim, the Jewish people, to connect with Him. Rosh Hashanah has decided how much you're going to have for the year, but that's in the bank. Now you have to daven every day to be able to get it delivered. The ATM should work, and then you should get the money. Otherwise, it gets stuck somewhere in the channels up there. So that's the idea of prayer, is to be able to bring down to this world what is meant for us to be. And also, prayer can sometimes break the barriers, and even people like Sarah, Rivka, Rochel, and Leah will have children, even naturally they could not have children. So that's the idea. But the question is, why such long prayers? You want to talk to Hashem? Talk to Hashem. Say, Hashem, you don't know my problems. And everybody has problems. I don't call them problems. I call them challenges, right? Spoke to somebody yesterday. He said he has lots of challenges. I said, very good. I said, what do you mean? He said, if somebody is sick, he only has one challenge. He wants to become healthy. If you have many challenges, it's a sign at least that you're healthy. So we all have our challenges. Nobody has it all. In Yiddish, there's a saying, Alts in einem and ishtar bei keinem. Nobody has it all. And therefore, we always think that the grass is greener on the other side. We all have our peckles. We all have our things that be our challenges that Hashem is giving us in order for us to be elevated to a higher level, to be able to bring it down. For example, when God created the world, there was no rain. Talking about floods. you know, then, and it says he put Adam in charge to work the land, but then Adam had to pray for rain. So again, the idea is the good is there, I am here, and I have to connect to Hashem to be able to open the channels and to get it done. But the question, why so long? My problem, Baruch Hashem, I have 14 kids and no theories and there's challenges. But how long will it take to say my challenges? Speak 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'll send Hashem an email. You know, I used to have an organization called Tzivot Hashem, the Army of Hashem. I used to have an account in the Commonwealth Bank. And then I get a letter, like one of those automated letters. It says, Tzivot Hashem, 36 Flat Street, Bondi. Dear Mr. Hashem, your account is overdue by 72 cents, and if in 10 days, if you don't fix it up, we're going to begin legal action. Hashem, you're wrong. Take it seriously. Why such long prayers? Why do we need a whole book to pray to Hashem, to talk to Hashem? And why 3 times a day? Isn't it enough once in the morning to give him a good cry out, say, this is what I need? And gegangen, weiter. Was a very famous chassid called Ershadus Stampoler. He was a very funny guy, very good sense of humor. And he used to come the last one in shul, and he used to leave the first one. So the rabbi said to him, why, how do you daven so fast? You know, I'm a rabbi, and I keep saying words of Hebrew and Torah all the time, but I cannot do it as fast as you do it. What is it? How do you do it? He says, listen, Rabbi, you have lots of Hasidim, you have a big family, and you pray to Hashem, you have to go through all your problems. It takes you a long time. I have nothing. I have a wife and I have a cow. So I come to Hashem and says, please give good health to my wife and good health to my cow. How long does that take? It doesn't take long, and I'm leaving. And it is very challenging to stay focused. And this is not only a challenge in our generation. In our generation, you know, I send someone an email and I send them 3 lines in the email, and he didn't reply to me. And a month later, I asked somebody, why isn't he replying to my email? He says, what did you write? I said, 3 lines. You don't write 3 lines. You have to write 1 line and say, I want to have a meeting with you. Maybe you'll read it then. Right? I'm in the middle of writing a book now called Ancient Wisdom Brought Unto the Modern World, to show everything that we have today, that all the discoveries we're making is already in the Torah. It's been in the Torah. And I started writing, and people told me, hey, Rabbi, stop right there. 30 seconds is the maximum concentration span that a person can have, especially young people. They're exposed to all the social media and all the stuff. So I start my writing every article. I said, if you have 30 seconds, you can read it. And then I say, if you have another minute, I have another paragraph. And even then, not many people read it, right? So the question really is, why is the system that we daven, Hashem wants us to daven, why is it so long? And why 3 times a day? You know, the Muslims are always jealous of the Jews. You just pray 3 times, you'll pray 5 times. But how do you? Huh? For sure, right?
Oh, that's shorter.
I think only a few minutes is.
Yeah.
Mahmoudin 5 times a day.
That's not long.
So, is it in our generation? The Gemara, the Talmud already says there's 3 things that nobody can say that they're clean of those 3 negative things. And it says in Talmud, for example, it says the 3 things is that thinking about doing something wrong, not doing something wrong, but thinking. I remember my wife used to give birth. She used to go on vacation every year to the Royal Women's Hospital. It was then in Paddington, you remember that?
Yeah.
And it said, it was a sign there, where at the entrance, that said, don't even think of parking here. I always park there, because who is thinking, your wife is in labor, you're going to start thinking? The policeman wanted to give me a ticket. I said, it doesn't say no parking. It says, don't even think of parking here. And I wasn't thinking. So the Gemara says that there's three things that nobody can say I'm clean of it. Lashon hara, speaking bad or thinking bad. And I forgot what the third one is, but the second one is, the expression of the Gemara is iyum tefillah. To be able to be focused at davening is a very big challenge for anybody. We're talking at the time of the Talmud. And now we're saying, you come every day for 40, 50 minutes, Shachris, the Mincha, the Ma'ariv, and that's why they say we have to say Slach Lanu, forgive us, 3 times a day. Even if you just have Mincha, and 20 minutes later you're davening Ma'ariv, they still say Slach Lanu again, because there's 3 things that can happen, that happens to all of us. So the idea of not being able to be fully focused at davening is not a new phenomenon that we have in our generation. In our generation, we say it's worse, but it's there in the time of the Gemara. So then the question is again, why is it so long? And why do we have to daven? Like somebody said, that at least when I daven the Shemona Esrei, one of the rabbis of the Talmud said it, by subconsciously, when I get to the word moedim, I bow down. So when I bow down, I remember where I'm up to in davening. Right? Or somebody said, I don't even know what day of the week it is, but every day there's a prayer saying for Sunday, Monday, that's when I remember what day of the week it is. So what is it all about? So in short, and as a matter of fact, the Talmud says it, and that in the olden days, people didn't pray. In the time of the first temple, there was no prayers. Everybody stood up and he spoke to Hashem. If he's a person who likes talking, he kept Hashem on the line a bit longer. If he's a short guy, he talked to Hashem short. And the Kohanim used to give blessings. There was no prayers. The whole idea of prayers came when the Jews came back from Babylon after the destruction of the first temple. They came back, and they lived in 127 different countries, which was like the kingdom of Achashverosh. They spoke different languages, and nobody knew exactly what it is. So our rabbis set up a set prayers that everybody could say the same thing, and we have a certain system. So that makes the question even bigger. If you don't have to, why it was good in the olden days just to say to Hashem? And the answers given me is that people were then more spiritually connected. And they didn't need, like when you have an oven, they give you instructions. When I need a recipe and I ask AI, it's better cooked than my wife. Not always, but I get a good recipe. It says warm up the oven for half an hour before you start baking, before you start cooking. They didn't need the warm up. The revelation of God during the first Beis Hamikdash was so strong that they can connect at any time. Why was the first Beis Hamikdash destroyed? Because they served idols. Now, people who serve idols are people who are sort of spiritual people. They're looking for some God, like people today who go to India and they go to all the gurus. They want to find all the stuff. They are spiritual people. So for them it was enough. But then our rabbis made the Shemona Esrei. Then over the generations, they added on to it, and as I can explain in a minute what the structure of the davening is. the Rambam says, when he begins to teach us about the laws of tefillah, he says, tefillah, prayer, is not a mitzvah from the Torah. The nusach of the tefillah, the content of the words that has to be said, is not written in the Torah. It says if you need something, you ask Hashem to give it to you, but it doesn't say that the whole thing is, Rabbi has made up a system. Today you can call it like, you want to connect to Hashem, you need Wi-Fi, so you need a certain password how to connect. So the nusach of the prayers that are made today is like the password how to be able to connect to Hashem and to be able to be present over there. And therefore he said that that's how it came about, and that's how it went from one generation to the other generation. And the Alter Rebbe said the same thing. He said, if you say Kriyat Shema and a bit of tefillah, is okay. I mean, Kriyat Shema, they always said Kriyat Shema. The Shema, they always said to read. So the idea is that when we do tefillah, when we do what is generally translated as prayer, is a time when we have one-on-one with Hashem. It's us. There's a story about somebody who went to, some guy who went to Las Vegas to gamble. He heard Las Vegas is a good place. He goes there, but he wouldn't go there with his long payers in his head. So he made a few adjustments. He put his payers as a ponytail, and his head he picked up like this, and he made a few adjustments. And then he goes down from his hotel, he crosses the street, and a car comes and hits him. He falls down. Somebody runs over right away. He says, "Are you comfortable?" He says, "No, I'm just making a living. I'm not really comfortable." But then he says, "Hashem, all my life I've been very good. I just even was thinking about gambling. I didn't even go there. You already had to hit me. God, it's Chaim talking to you. Answer me." Then he hears a sound from heaven saying, "Chaim, it's you? I didn't even recognize you." So the idea is that davening prayer is that we have one-on-one with Hashem, and if you have one-on-one, if you're going to see a king, right, you cannot just walk in. There's different chambers you have to go through. Then, in order to be able to get to see the king, you cannot bypass. You cannot make a shortcut. Say, "I want to talk to the king the way I am." So the whole structure of tefillah is structured in such a way, a build-up towards us connecting with Hashem by the davening. And it's very, very difficult, very challenging, as we said in the olden days. And the Rabbi gave somebody advice, and he said that what you do is take one part of the davening, take 2 lines, and daven these 2 lines, have real kavanah. Tomorrow you take the next 2 lines, the next 3 lines, and so on. You build up. I'll never forget when the Rabbi said it in 1962, and he said he got a letter from a 12-year-old boy in Russia. And you remember about the 6 years for in Russia, and the Rebbe started crying. He says, the boy writes to me, he wants a bracha to be able to be more focused during davening. And he said, this is the problem for a 12-year-old boy who couldn't go to cheder, who couldn't go to school, who everything, his whole life is limited. He writes to me a letter, and that he wants to be able to be more focused in davening. I mean, I know who the person is. He later on came out of Russia. But the idea is that we have to take the time. And that's why Yaakov said to Rachel, "I'm not God. I cannot fulfill. If you want to have the children, you got to pray to Hashem." That's just now, 2 weeks ago, the hostages came to visit Donald Trump. Right? He wanted them all to come to get some credit, make all taram, and 5 of them went to the oil of the Rabbi. And they said they found out that their families always went, whenever they went to America, they went to the oil to pray for them. And this time they came to give thanks. And there's one of them, there's a beautiful book, it's in Hebrew, I started reading it on Shabbat, I couldn't put it down, Rabbi. קראת את הספר? I have the book, I can lend you the book called Achatuf. And he describes what happened to him from the second the terrorists came in till he was released. He was there for 475 days, something like this. And he describes every single detail, just unbelievable. He said they were together 4 or 5 people, and one of them came from a religious family, and he knew the brachot that we say in the morning, the blessings to thank Hashem, so he used to say it and we used to follow him. And every Friday night he made kiddush, obviously on water. But there's another hostage who said, I think yesterday, the day before yesterday, he said the night after I was captured by Hamas, I said to them, I need a Talmud film to daven. One would think such a chutzpah, and they ended up, a few days later, they bought him Talmud film. I don't know where he got it from, but he asked for it, and he got it. I have always a big sign on my desk that says, yes, you don't get what you don't ask for, except the headache, but otherwise, you got to ask for it. I remember there was...
True. But if you don't know what to ask.
That's why we begin the Shemona Esrei. We say, Hashem sfatai tiftach. God, you open my lips and let me praise you. So the idea is, as we're going to see in a minute, the structure, but the asking from Hashem is, I'm connecting to my source, my neshama. That's we know we have to eat 3 times a day, right? Some people eat 5 times a day, it depends. You know, I once went to a dietitian and she told me, in the morning you eat a bit of yogurt, and lunchtime you eat a bit of chicken, at night a bit of fish. And I wrote it all down. She said, do you have any questions? I said, yeah, when do I have it, before the meals or after the meals? Okay, so people, we eat 3 times. Why? Because we know our body needs energy. We have to take, so the same thing, we need 3 times a day. We go in the morning with daven. We connect to Hashem, but then we get out what we call the real world, which is really the false world, and we get involved with all the physical and the mundane things, and we think we are one in the world and we are in charge. It's like 2 Hasidim once said to each other, if I were God, how would the world look like? And he gave all description how it looked like. And the other one said, if I were God, the world would look exactly the way it is, because God is in charge. So this person who put on film, he was one of the 4 people who were there at the oil. He said, I had a chutzpah to ask for it, and I got it. And every day, me and my friends who were with them, we put on Talmud film there. They let us. Why? Because I asked for it. In his book, Rabbi writes that some things that they asked for, they had to know who to ask and what to ask. If they can get an extra piece of pita bread, a small piece of pita bread, they had to beg for it and ask for it. And it's an unbelievable to read. And he said, the only thing that kept us going is the belief in Hashem. The belief in Hashem. And my job, he said, I'm not religious. I don't come from a religious family, but I tried everything else, and I didn't see anything that will get me out of here alive. The only thing that will get me out of here alive is my belief that Hashem would finally listen to me. I didn't know what's happening in the outside world. I didn't know there was demonstrations. I didn't know. And he said that his captives kept telling him that nobody cares about you, that Netanyahu wants you to stay here forever. They kept on giving them all the propaganda. But he said, we asked for certain things, and 9 out of 10 said no, but one time he said yes. The Rabbi once told a fundraiser, if you ask someone for a donation and they say no, it's their problem. If a second time you ask them and they say no, it's again their problem. But if because of that you're not going to ask for a 3rd time, that's already your problem. In other words, to keep asking what we need. And the Gemara says there are 7 berms in Jewish history. We have Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, and then we have Manoach, who was the mother of Shimshon. Samson, what is it? Yeah. So she was also barren, and only through prayers she gave birth to Samson. Huh? And then we have Hannah, yeah. And the 7th one says is Jerusalem. The city of Jerusalem is barren and can't wait the kibbutz baner to Chabe Simcha till all their children will come back to it. So, if you look at these papers here, the structure, if you want to give out, just make it. The structure of the prayers of the morning is structured in a very interesting way. If you want to press it down, it's like according to Hasidus, it's like a ladder with 4 steps on it. Right? So the beginning is Birchas HaShachar. As soon as you wake up in the morning, we thank Hashem. I woke up this morning. I tell my wife sometimes if I wake up and nothing hurts me, I think I died. So you wake up in the morning, you're alive, you go to Modani, then you go to all the brachot of the morning. It's basically, that's gratitude. They have to be thankful. Anybody who doesn't have gratitude, there's nothing you can do with them. That's the first step. To say, have gratitude and say thank you. Appreciate. I remember I once went to after a long time, I went to Israel and I gave a lolly to my nephew and asked him, he didn't say anything. He says, what do you say if someone gives you a lolly? He says, can I have another one? So that's the first structure. Then we go to Psukei de Zimra, the verse of praise. Right? And that includes the Baruch She'amar, blessed Hashem, and we go through all how beautiful the world that we live in and how everything is working. Praise. So we start with ourselves. Then we go out to say how beautiful the world is that Hashem created. Then we go to Shema, the blessings before Shema and the blessings after Shema, where we accept Hashem as our God and create a love to Hashem. And then comes the Amidah, then we're ready to meet the king one-on-one. We are silent and we're ready to meet the king after all the preparation that we have made before. And that's
why are there colors in this? What do the colors mean? We know that the higher you get, the whiter it is. And here, red, which is actually totally material,
because
the highest level.
Because AI has decided to make it print like this. So I asked AI to give me a kitzel of the 4 levels, and that's how he gave it to me. So
White means all colors together. No colors is dark. All colors together is
but
white.
what you get is clarity. For example,
Rainbow.
if you get
No, the rainbow is separation.
yeah, when you put on
Okay, next.
screen and you use how do you call this camera that can detect
X-ray.
Hila? How do you say Hila?
Radiation.
Not radiation, but the
movement.
lowness
Aura.
around you.
Oh, yeah, but it's
Yeah. So when you put tefillin, it will change from yellow, green, purple, blue, light blue, and then white.
yeah, but white
That's the higher-
white is not a color. White is everything together.
Yeah, but most people.
If something is missing, it's not white anymore.
Most people cannot achieve one.
okay.
It's a
Now,
basic.
and not only in our generation, as I said before, that goes back to the time of the Talmud, right? When they had bigger mochod than we had. But I remember by the Rabbi, twice a year, when the Rabbi had a Faprengen, he's the only one who spoke. He spoke for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, then we sing a nigun, then he'll speak again. But twice a year, somebody else, he invited somebody to speak. One was Shabbos Bereshis, the first Shabbos of the year, that they sold all the kibbudim, all the honors of the whole year, They sold who's going to buy all the mafti, who's going to buy the opening of the Torah. And there was one person, there's a famous story, his name was Goari, and he owned the factory of Dubek. Dubek is the biggest cigarette company in Israel. He used to come there.
Which company?
Dubek, it's called. Today it doesn't exist anymore. So he stood there, he says he's prepared, he wants to donate $100,000. And we also, a few thousand people, I was there a few times when that happened. He says, but I want to buy the honor of opening the Aron HaKodesh next year by Yom Kippur. Right? We're talking about 2 weeks after Yom Kippur. But in a condition, the Rebbe will promise me that I'll be there to do it. And the Rebbe looked up, he looked up in the crowd, and he shook his head. He said, I watched it. And people said that this guy, he has insurance. The only time he can die is between Yom Kippur and the next Shabbat Bereshit. That's the 3 weeks, the 2 or 3 weeks that he doesn't have an insurance policy. It came in 1987, 770 back, the Rabbi walks in, and he's standing ready by the Aron HaKodesh. He opens up the ark and drops dead on the spot.
What? You're not being
No,
serious?
yeah, in front of 5,000 people.
Right.
He opens, in other words, the Rabbi promised him, you're going to be there next year. That's the condition. He opened it and he dropped dead there to start the prayer, called Datzala, and they got him out and they continued up. So that was Shabbos Bereshis. The second time was Shabbos Parshas Mishpatim, where it talks about the mitzvah of loaning people money, Gmilut Chasadim. Somebody needs a loan. And they say in a way a loan is even higher than tzedakah, because tzedakah you only can give to poor people. A loan, you can, even a rich person can sometimes be short of cash. So there was one person, there was in Crown Heights, there was 3 or 4 such funds. And once a year, they made an appeal, Parshas Mishpatim, they made an appeal on Melav Malke, a dinner after Shabbos, where they raised money for the fund. I mean, I was a very good customer for them because I used to go on the 1st of January, borrow $1,000 from fund number 1, and I told them I'll give it back to you on the 1st of February. 1st of February, I went to fund number 2, and I borrowed the money, I'll give it back to you the 1st of March, and I gave it to him. And then I did the 1st of April. And that's one time I met all 4 of them together. I said, do me a favor, can you just pass to each other every month $1,000? Why do you need me to actually go out there and pass it down the money? So he stands up there, his name is Rabbi Shimon Goldman, I'll never forget. And actually I wasn't there at the time, I was already in Sydney. But I read the Sikha, and you have to have guts to be able to stand in front of the Rebbe and give it Dvar Torah, you know. So he decides he's going to play smart. He says, today I want to tell a story. How long can you go with the story? Okay. He starts a story about a big tzaddik, one of the students of the Baal Shem Tov, called the Menachem of Chernobyl. There's many dynasties of Hasidim that come out of him. He was actually very fat, very overweight, and he said that he's overweight because the pleasure he gets when he says, Amen, Yesh Me Rabba, the prayer that gives him so much pleasure, that gives him the weight. I mean, I have also, by me, is making brachas, that's from the least brachas I get. But whatever, he was a great tzaddik. He didn't have a shul big enough to have all his Hasidim. So he said, you know what, you stay put, and I'm going to travel around and spend the Shabbos in this town, the Shabbos in this town. And that's what he used to do. And in each town, he had his achsania, his place where he used to stay. There were certain people that he would stay by. So once he came into a town, and people knew, they got ready for it. That's the story he's telling in front of the Rebbe. Right? So he said, what happened was that on Wednesday, a messenger from Rabbi Menachem of Chernobyl comes, and he says to this guy, guess what? The Rebbe is not going to stay by you this year. He said, why not? In one condition. If you're going to make a donation of 1,000,000 rubles, if you're going to give him 1,000,000 rubles, then he's going to come and stay by you. Man, he was a rich man, but 1,000,000 rubles, if he'll sell everything he has, he wouldn't get. And the Rebbe says, not only is he not going to stay by you, he doesn't want to see you until you get the money. And the Chassid was broken, heartbroken, and then a few weeks later he went to Leipzig to the big Yerid trade fair. In the meantime, there was some soldiers. That's the story he's telling. The soldiers went by there, and one of the head of the soldiers stayed in his house. And when they left, all of a sudden they forgot. They left a big treasure of money, which was close to or more than 1 million rubles. When he came home, his wife tells him the story. So he came to the Rabbi, he gave the Rabbi, the Reb Nachman Chernobyl, he gives him, says, you said you want 1 million rubles for me, here it is. So he says, I don't need your money. You have to understand, you are a person, for you money means nothing. Although we say today money talks, and I say my money only says goodbye. But he says, you, every time when you pray to Hashem, you pray for higher things. You pray for to be able to daven better, to serve God better. And this Rosh Hashanah was decided that you're going to have 1 million rubles, but you're going to have to ask for it. So I knew you're not going to ask for it. So that's why I made the whole thing that you should go, I should ask you for 1 million rubles. And then you start praying to Hashem, I want 1 million rubles because I want to see my Rabbi. And then that's how you get it. In other words, the idea is that you're going to ask for it and then you'll get it. And he tells the story. And the Rebbe turns around and he says, with all due respect, like in Australia, when someone tells you with all due respect, what's coming now is, or when an Israeli tells you, I'll be honest with you, every word from now on is not honest, right? So the Rebbe turns around and he says, maybe the story didn't happen. And if it happened, I find it very hard to believe. Why? And that's looking from a Rabbi's perspective. I could not believe that even for 1 million rubles, that Reb Nachum of Chernobyl should cause pain for a few weeks for his chassid. He knew how dear his chassid was to him, and he should cause pain for a chassid, a Rabbi should cause pain for a chassid for a few weeks. I don't think the story makes sense. Maybe it didn't happen, and if it happened, maybe it was a few hours. And then the Rebbe starts apologizing. I am sorry that in public I said something about your story, but in return, I'm going to make the announcement now that everybody should come tonight and to raise money. And they raised a lot of money because the Rebbe is the one who made the announcement. That everyone should come and donate. But the basic idea is that he said to him, there's certain things we got to ask for it. I'll never forget when I was working in Shiva, and Rabbi Feldman told me to speak to all the people who don't have any children. They're not going to take the money with them. As they say, the last pair of pants you're going to wear will not have pockets in it. So find those people and get them to write Yeshiva in the will. So I found such a lady, an Holocaust survivor. She lives in King's Cross, and I had to go and visit her. It wasn't such a nice people see a rabbi visiting King's Cross. I invited her to the school. And I was so gentle. I went around the bush. The bush, you have to remember, you have to give something.
I met her.
Catherine Gluck, you remember?
Oh, no, there was a different one. She was up. I dropped her. I gave her a ride home one day.
She's a short little lady. She's an unbelievable lady. She'd come to my house and she dies at the age of 95. We opened the will. She gave everything to Rabbi Kamenz for the reform.
Oh.
Every single thing, to him personally. I was practicing. I went to Rabbi Kamenz and said, how much work I put into it. I used to bring it to my house for Shabbos, and I used to bring it to the school, and she spoke to the children and everything. How come I didn't get it? He said, because she didn't ask for it. I asked, you didn't ask. As they say in the books, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And you didn't take the shot, and I was asking, and because I asked, I got it. And they taught me a lesson, and when I train people at the fundraiser, I said, you cannot stop until you get 10 people saying no to you. Until you get 10 rejections, you cannot stop. You have to get on the phone and keep going. So basically, in a nutshell, what we're saying here is that Hashem made the four mothers be barren, and they will get children through the prayers from Hashem, because Hashem wants the connection with them. He yearns for the connection just as well as we do, because Hashem created the world to reveal godliness in this world here. We have a longer prayers today than we used to have in the olden days, because it takes time to sort of warm up the oven and get to the oven. And the basic idea is to take one or two lines, whatever it is, to take, if you can't focus the whole time, it's all right. Start with one line and two lines, and eventually God will give us the blessings, whatever we need in all different aspects of life. As I told the story once, there were two people standing at the kotel. One is praying to Hashem. He says to Hashem, I want $100. And the other one says, I want $1 million. And they're both praying for 100 and he's for $1 million. The guy from the million says, listen, here's $100. Please go away. I'm talking to him about millions. Why are you disturbing him for $100? So the guy who got $100 said, at least my prayers were answered. I don't know what happened to him, but my prayers were definitely answered. And the idea is what our rabbis teach us, and the Rabbi was specifically, that we have to keep asking for Mashiach. We have to go for the jackpot. And the fact that I asked yesterday and 2 days ago and 3 days ago, and we still didn't get it, Hashem has his own timeline. Like somebody once said, Hashem is honest, he doesn't pay it on time. He doesn't pay, and sometimes it takes generations for that to come true. There's a lady I know very well, a couple, but the lady, Mrs. Carneal was her name. And she was a teacher, but they fired her because every year she used to take off time. In Israel, they give you 6 months. So every year she wasn't teaching. They fired her, so she got a job in a certain yeshuv, certain settlement, where the focus, they're taking young girls who got involved with Arabs or on drugs, whatever it is, and to rehabilitate them. And one particular student, she had a very big challenge, like she wouldn't cooperate. So she wrote to the Rabbi, I want a bracha to be able to succeed and reach out to this girl. And the Rabbi answered her, he said, every day you should say the chapter of Tehillim which is corresponding to her age. So for example, if a person is turning 40, he should read chapter 41 every day. If a person turns 70, if you turn 118, it's a problem because 119 is a very long chapter. So she kept, nobody told her to stop, she kept saying every year she knew when her birthday was, she changed up to another this. Now I have an app on my phone which tells me there's a Tehillim there, and it tells me that's my chapter now. It knows when my birthday is, and it tells me I press a button, and it brings me up to my chapter in Tehillim. 15 years later, she's at the wedding or something, and then a young lady walks up to her. She says, do you recognize me? I'm the girl that, 5 years after I left you, or 6 years after I left you, I turned my life around. I got married. This is one of my children over here. And she realized that after 1 year, she said, I'm praying for a year, it's not happening. Keep going, keep going. And that's what the Rabbi wanted from us. We should keep going until we actually get a jackpot, get Mashiach, and hopefully it's going to happen very soon. Chaim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.